Welcome to Talking Giants presented by SeatGeek. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, Justin Pennick. It's Combine Week, and we've got our good friend on, Jordan Raanan. We talked to him for about 45 minutes. We talked Daniel Jones, Saquon, another player who we spent too much time talking about. Justin, how are you doing?
Bobby Skinner, hello. It's Combine Week. Jordan Raanan kept saying multiple times, a lot of times, that we're going to find out, or at least the beat reporters are, they're going to find out a lot about what the Giants are going to kind of do in free agency. This is going to be the week that will kind of launch and propel them forward. And, as we have been since the season has ended, we are waiting on Daniel Jones contract extension news. We're waiting on Saquon Barkley contract extension news. And then we will be able to, kind of get a read on what the Giants are going to do and what they're going to be able to do for the rest of the offseason.
Yeah, so Joe Schoen, Brian Dable have their press conferences as you're probably listening to this today. I don't expect much to get out of it, but pay attention to like the Combine notebooks that come out. I remember, Logan Ryan was talked about as a possible release after the Combine, and everyone, even the other reporters, like, that's crazy. And Pat Leonard ended up being right about it. So I think we'll find out some good stuff this week. And the Combine. Justin, we'll talk about this more on Friday. The Combine matters more than we originally used to think, where it's like, Combine doesn't mean anything. No, it kind of does. Like, you look at star players, they usually fall into certain categories when it comes to their speed, height, weight, arm length type categories. So I'm way more invested. I'm not like, it kind of helps you confirm stuff, right? It's like, okay, this guy does have star ability, where I think you can hurt more than help. But I'm excited for the Combine this week. So yeah, we got 45 minutes with Jordan. We'll get right into that. Justin, or first, this episode was brought to you by some special people first. I've been forgetting to do this lately.
Especially for receivers, the 40-yard dash. This is like the first year where I can get like legitimately excited about a receiver running a cool, good 40-yard dash and be like, oh, maybe a Giant.
Yeah. This episode is brought to you by Townsend Larmore. Townsend's such a great first name.
It's a great first name.
Larry Rubin. I think that guy's on Shark Tank. Steve Donnelly. We have another Donnelly in here. Maybe they're related. AJ Condry, Anna Condry, Tobias and Tobias Kolmenga. We've already talked about him with Tobias Harris. Justin, who are these people?
These wonderful people went to patreon.com/talkinggiants. $2 a month plus some other tiers. You get to hang out with us live while we record the shows. The Daniel Jones contract, Saquon Barkley, whatever news is going to be a really cool and fun episode to be part of. So you want to be part of the best community of Giants fans out there. Bobby Skinner will send you some stickers, magnets in the mail. Plus, there's some shirt raffles a couple times a month. Patreon.com/talkinggiants.
Anything else we got to shout out before we get into this interview?
Yeah, we got to talk about DraftKings. What's better than watching the NBA action? Being part of it. That's right. With DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, you can tap into all of the excitement with the click of a button. New customers can place $5 on any pregame money line bet and get $150 in bonus bets if your team wins. It's that simple. Plus, for a limited time, all customers can score a no-sweat same-game parlay every day. Go to the app, opt in, and place a same-game parlay on any NBA game. If it doesn't hit, you'll get your bonus back, your bonus bet back. I want you to download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and sign up with the code WORLD. That's Talking Giants versus the World. New customers can place $5 on any pregame money line bet and get $150 in bonus bets if your team wins. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code WORLD. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details.
Let's kick it to Jordan Raanan. I will now welcome on to the program. We've had you on pre-free agency the last couple of years, so I think that's kind of a tradition now in Talking Giants. ESPN.
This is pre-combine, though, Bobby. That's a little bit more difficult,
But yeah, pre-combine, pre-free agency. We welcome on Jordan Raanan if you didn't hear the voice. First question. So you're going to be at the Combine for the press conferences when people are listening to this podcast. Can the beat reporter as a group just create one really good Daniel Jones question for Joe Schoen, and then you guys ask him other things besides Daniel Jones?
Yeah, I'm sure it won't work that way. No.
I want to get some info out of Joe Schoen, and I know I'm going to be like listening intently to 20 straight Daniel Jones questions.
Well, let me explain to you how these interviews at the Combine go. Ready? So you want us to give you all this information that you could then use by sitting at home, right? So
Mhm.
usually
Wow.
the guy goes at the podium. You ask the necessary questions that you need to be on camera, right? And people from outside, national people, they pop in. And then most of the time, the general manager, the coach, whatever, they'll talk again on the side. Whereas then we're not giving you all the free information. So then, oh, hey, look, hey, you guys got everything. And yet we didn't even get to our computer yet.
Mm.
Yeah, that's the thing, is I want to be benefited from this.
Yeah, I know.
And
and everyone else has a different agenda, obviously.
you'll probably have less of a crowd than usual, because when Dave Gettleman was the GM, everyone would swarm to there to get the funny quotes out of him.
I miss him.
But see, that's what you want. You want the national people to eventually take. Like, you have to ask Dad, what's going on with the $45 million, Daniel Jones, blah, blah, blah. And then you have national people come in, wrap it up, filibuster for the last 5-7 minutes, kill that time. You get the guy to the side. You ask all the questions you need. Now you have stories basically for the next month. And, not everybody has.
Mm.
It's not out there for everybody.
Look at that. That's,
All right,
that's how you win.
Let's get to the meat and tomatoes. You reported this. Why did Daniel Jones switch agents?
Yeah, it's a good question. So my understanding of this is that, first of all, let's just look at it from a fact perspective, right? He has the same agent since he's drafted. He could have changed agents any time over the last 4 years. Right?
Yeah, CAA is they're no little guys,
No, they're big guys. Like, they represent basically every Southern and SEC quarterback, okay? Eli Manning was CAA. Peyton Manning was CAA. Like, Will Levis is CAA. Like, is Bryce Young is CAA. Like, they're all, that's how this works. So he didn't change agents for 4 years. Now, all of a sudden, a week before the franchise deadline, right? Franchise tag deadline, a couple weeks before free agency, all of a sudden he switches. So there's obviously something here, and this is from what I understand. Then negotiations, and I use negotiations to say, like, people talk, right? His people were talking to the Giants. Maybe they weren't putting a firm offer, but like, everyone knows the range that they're in, right? And like, now they go to the combine, and they'll get into that even more. But when you're talking about a quarterback, it's a discussion they've been having, okay? And he wasn't happy with the way it was going, and so he made the change. And look, the idea that he's asking for a lot of money is not outrageous. I think that's actually reality. From what you hear, that sounds like the case. Now, I don't know necessarily if that $45 million number is real. What I heard is there's people in his camp who think he's worth more than 40. Okay, so what's the difference at this point? The thing is, and my thing, what I said in my podcast the other day was, there's no reason to even have this discussion, because the Giants are never going there. They're not going there. They have a $32 million franchise tag. They're not going to pay him $42, $45 million a year. It's not even worth wasting our time with that conversation.
So is this heading towards a franchise tag?
We'll see. Look, if the number's 42 and the Giants number's 35, there's a reasonable 38 number to come up with right there, right? I don't think that's outrageous to think that can happen. But in the meantime, right now, if I had to guess, it does seem to be heading that. This week is a big week. Let's see what happens at the combine before we make any guesses, because that's when Joe Shane and the Giants people get to sit down face to face with the agents, and a lot of things get hammered out, or at least the structure of things and the bones of everything get hammered out in Indianapolis during the combine.
Jordan, I go back and forth on so many things, just with how, with what Jones is worth, but partially what I really think of, and I ask myself, is what's the sense on the kind of offense the Giants want to have moving forward with Daniel Jones at the head of their quarterback, right? Because the Giants had a tale of two seasons. They kind of had that run-heavy approach for basically 75% of the season, and then even the last part of the season, they started throwing the ball on early downs, but they weren't airing it out. the average depth of target was still very low. It was, very, very quick reads for Daniel Jones, especially on early downs. So do you get any sense with why this offense was so conservative last year from a passing depth standpoint? Is it solely Daniel Jones? Is it wide receivers, O-line? And because when I think about when the Giants putting this big financial investment in Daniel Jones, the projection on where this coaching staff and where Joe Schoen sees the offense is a huge part of that, at least in my opinion.
I think that they would like to have an offense like they had in Buffalo, right? Like that's what they want. The idea that Daniel Jones is not a good. Remember a couple years back, Daniel Jones' strong point was actually throwing the deep ball. Right. Now maybe we can sit here and we can nitpick. He's not great with going through his reads, getting to that deep ball, but I don't think that's the primary reason. Look, he is part of the reason they ran the offense that they did, but I think it's more so the fact that they entered the season, they realized our best player is our running back. Our offensive line is better in run blocking. We can't really pass protect that well. Like and then the receivers were dust balls by like the middle of the season. Marcus Johnson started a lot of games. Okay. Think about that for a second.
Yeah.
Marcus Johnson, David Sills. I'm missing another guy in this group. Who else started? That's like a random name.
Kenny Galladay.
Who is that?
Kenny Galladay.
Oh, I thought Bobby chimed in somebody.
No, it was. I think the random guys were Marcus. It's so crazy how a guy like Isaiah Hodgins was like a god. He dropped by the Bills and was like a godsend to this roster. That's how bad the wide receiver group was.
Yeah, so I think that more than Daniel Jones contributed to the offense. I think they would love to open it up. Trust me, they know that winning this league, you throw early, you run late, you throw the ball down the field, you score points by throwing. Think about what Brian Daboll did that final year in Buffalo. Like he barely ran the ball. Was that his final year or the second to last year? Whatever it was.
His final year is when the fans were mad because they never ran the ball.
They basically threw out the idea of running the football.
Like the running game was Josh Allen for the most part.
It's going to be based on their personnel. I mean, that's obviously what he likes to do. Like he comes from that Belichick tree. He's way more Belichickian, by the way, and people don't realize this, than Joe Judge, like 100%. Like he is way more Belichickian in a lot of ways than Joe Judge.
Why do you say that?
Just the way he approaches it. He tries to tell you nothing. The way he talks. I mean, a lot of the things he does. I mean, he's almost like when it comes to injuries, he's just like, "Hey, this is football. Get back out there." Like he has that side to him very much so. Now there's differences also. He's way more country club like in regards to practices and stuff. Like Joe Judge practiced hard and long. Brian Daboll practices short. It's like, and like, look, players love that. Obviously, they don't want to work, and they'd rather not practice. But just the way he operates in general, you could see a lot of that New England Patriots roots. I mean, that's where he spent the majority of his career.
Yeah.
So we're talking about the wide receiver core and the passing. Like, there's entire pass concepts from Buffalo that they use a lot that they didn't use one time this season. And right now with the wide receiver core, it's...
What are you talking about in particular? You have anything on the top of your head?
Like a Mills concept with like the deep post, the deep end, where you're trying to get like a safety to jump on stuff.
They thought they could protect on the interior to do a lot of that stuff. I think that was a big part of why they had to run what they did.
And that's a play where you need... So with that, the wide receiver room is almost more of a question mark than it was at the end of last season. Darius Slayton's a free agent. Your only returning wide receivers are Isaiah Hodgins and then Wan'Dale Robinson and Colin Johnson coming off of torn ACLs. Like, is there any sense that they're going to be aggressive to fix this? Like, could we see a first round trade for a star wide receiver that opens up?
I don't think that's out of the question. I think Joe Schoen is going to explore all possibilities. I mean, it depends who's available. Like, I know everybody wants to bring up T. Higgins, but are the Cincinnati Bengals really going to make T. Higgins available?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Personally, I mean, yeah, that kind of move makes sense, but they're trying to win the Super Bowl right now. So they have a wide receiver on a cheap deal for one more year. You let him play on that one more year in their situation, and then you go and franchise him next year, and then you could trade him if you want, right?
Yeah.
So why do that now for a team in their situation? So I don't know who that guy is. Maybe if he finds it, I wouldn't. Joe Shane, I think, would be aggressive to make those kind of moves. I do. I think he's going to be an aggressive general manager. He traded Kadarius Toney, right?
Yeah.
I know it was aggressive in the opposite direction, but that was an aggressive move there when everybody knew they needed wide receivers. And what did he do? He traded away their most talented wide receiver. And you saw what happened in Kansas City. You see why they traded him away, and then you see why he's such a lightning rod because he's so damn talented. So I think they're going to be active in free agency and the draft in regards to wide receiver.
Who in free agency kind of piques your interest? Because, I mean, Darius Slayton has the 4th most receiving yards out of all free agents. I mean, really, Juju was the only guy that is like, okay, even then, I don't know how much is Juju going to cost. Like, you don't see those guys out there unless you say
Hear me out
that.
on this one now.
Don't say it.
Okay, there's not a lot of options, right? There maybe not be a true number 1 option this year. It might be a thing the Giants have to put off until another year.
Yeah.
Odell Beckham is a guy you could take a shot on if the price is right. He could maybe play. You could at least, there is some hope that he could play at a pseudo number 1 level still. And then, you could still add in the draft. And you get a wide receiver. Let's say you had a wide receiver in the 2nd round of the draft. You had Odell. You put Wandale in there. And you re-sign, I don't know, one of the guys, right? I guess Slayton. We would still need an outside guy. Like, you try and get by with that for 1 year. It's certainly an improvement on what you had, right? It's not ideal, but you tell me, where's the ideal situation? I'm having trouble landing on the ideal situation.
No, I don't think there is an
Bobby's
ideal.
losing his mind over here. You can see.
We'll just throw smart, tough, dependable out. Dumb, injury prone, and undependable.
Which I do agree with that with bringing Odell back. I mean, for a 1-year deal, there may not be a better solution, but I mean, smart. I do think you do throw smart, tough, dependable out the window. And if there's, what I'm hoping Joe Shane is as a GM is what Dave Gettleman wasn't, and doing what you preach and acting.
Look, not everyone's going to be smart, tough, dependable. Okay,
I know, but at least want the guys that aren't to be 22 and not injury prone.
Has shit bags. That's just the way it is. I had somebody tell me that once who works in the league. Tell me, like, every locker room has shit bags. The idea is to create an atmosphere around them, an environment that's strong enough to be able to support those people.
Yeah, I want those guys to be 23, not 30 years old and unbelievably injury prone.
We're talking about a short-term solution here because there aren't many great, like, does Jacoby Myers do it for you?
No, but I also don't want to I don't want to, like, because it's such a big need, I don't want to just be like, I don't want to do something that we wouldn't usually do just to fill that hole for a 1 year. Like, I don't want the fact that they made the playoffs accelerate, like, make them do desperate things, I don't want them to do what Dave Gettleman did.
I don't think that's desperate. I think that's filling a gap for a year. Like, you have to fill a gap, right? You're going to have to fill out the roster. How are you going to fill out the rosters if you don't take a risk on somebody at wide receiver if that number 1 isn't there available in trade?
I mean, I'd rather just bring back Darius Slayton.
And have him as your 1?
Yes.
Wow.
It's tough.
I don't know.
It's
you
tough.
can at least, I don't know. To me, and I like Slayton. I think he's a quality player, but
I don't think Slayton's going to be back. I just do not want Odell Beckham Jr.
Yeah,
on this team.
I get it, but I'm just saying, Slayton is what he is, right? He's like a quality number 3 in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's kind of what he is. Like, he's going to give you 700 yards. He could hit some big plays. He could do some verticals. He's like, he would be perfect in like the not Tony Pollard, Michael Gallup role in Dallas. Like, he's that guy, right?
Yeah.
But at least I feel like Odell, you can dream of something bigger. Like that.
That's all it is, though. It's his dreams because he's injury prone.
Injuries are the problem.
I can't believe we're spending so much time on Odell. This is aggravating me.
I have a question.
Okay,
well, at least we'll get.
What's your give me your solution? You're bringing back Slayton.
No, my solution is to be like, hey, this is just because we made the playoffs doesn't mean we need to fill all our gaps.
Yeah,
we're
but
still a
how
couple
are you
years away.
filling out the position next year?
I would grab 2 high ceiling players, or two low floor players.
Like where? In free agency?
Free agency, the draft, guys, two high floor players. I don't need superstars. And Daniel Jones has proven that he doesn't need amazing wide receivers.
The problem is,
to
who's
operate.
your primary pass catcher going to be?
I mean,
That's
who
the
was
problem.
it last year? Isaiah Hodgins and Darius Slayton.
And what did the offense look like?
I mean, it was ranked 15th. I'm not saying it's going to be great.
I need an alpha at least that Daniel Jones could trust to throw the ball. Like, I know this guy can win and separate and get open consistently.
I'd rather trade like a second-round pick for a guy like DeAndre Hopkins.
That's fine. DeAndre Hopkins, by the way, he doesn't come without any concerns either.
No doubt. It just depends what with Hopkins. It depends what
and older and a lot more money.
It depends what the trade value is.
Yeah.
Like if Hopkins is getting like a high second, like now. Honestly, I just think.
But he doesn't fit smart, tough, dependable either, and he certainly doesn't. And he certainly doesn't fit the young guy either. I mean, he's in the same. Your same complaints about Odell.
But he's still a much better option than Odell.
Yeah, of course, but he's also going to be a lot more expensive.
That's true.
That's
why I wouldn't want to do any of those options. So,
but that's why you got to come up with some options. Like Joe Shane and Dave will have to come out with some plan, right? That they think is going to be feasible, and we can at least see, the true. I mean, what are we going to do? We're going to sit here in year 5 and be like, well, again, Daniel didn't have enough weapons, but maybe in year 6 we'll get it right for him. We'll finally get him, sufficient weapons.
Well, no, I just think heading into the offseason, I think we kind of just thought, because receivers are plentiful in the draft and we're kind of learning, we're picking 25, where the top guys are going to go, and then where like that second tier of guys are, it doesn't necessarily fit where we are at 25. And then obviously trading for a guy, signing guys, the wide receiver 1 problem for the Giants is not going to be easily solvable as we thought earlier in the offseason. But I kind of want to get a glimpse into your brain, Jordan, because you are going to Indy. And obviously, there are going to be things that you're going to be talking with, Joe Shane, other Giants executives, whoever, your connects are at Indy, even off that stage, during those press conferences. So what are the things that you most want to know going into Indianapolis from whoever you talk to? What are the things that you're looking to get out of Indianapolis and talking with whoever?
I think the point of Indianapolis is mostly through free agency. It's like, how are we going to fill out the secondary? What are we going to do? I think we should be able to come home from Indianapolis and say, all right, this guy has a good chance of being the Giants' middle linebacker next year. Right?
Okay.
Like something along those lines. I don't like. What are their big moves this offseason going to be? Like, they're going to add some wide receivers. They're going to add some weapons. I wouldn't even mind, by the way, and here's another solution for that. I say pass catcher. Like, if you want to draft, this is a strong tight end draft. At 25, a high-end pass-catching tight end. I'm actually a big fan of your number 1 receiver being a tight end. I think there's room for that guy, pass receiving tight end, and I want to call him Clay Bellinger every time. I mean, it's about to come with Daniel Bellinger. But so I think that's an option that I would like to see if they're willing to explore. Cornerback, how are we going to deal with that? Leonard Williams is also something I think we should have a grasp on.
Yeah,
there's got to be something done with Leonard Williams. Like, that contract is pretty crazy as it is now. They're going to have to find a way to make it work numbers-wise, add a couple of years on, restructure. I don't know. Cut him. Cut him is not a great option, but
no, I don't think that'll happen.
That's a big number, though. You got to get something done. It's going to be tough because that defensive line market, too, is going to get crazy.
It is already getting crazy. Last year, we saw guys like Austin Johnson getting like big contracts.
Yeah. What do you think when I tell you that Dexter Lawrence is going to get like $25 million a year?
I think that's probably what will happen. It's crazy.
That's where that market is going. We'll find out more about that in Indianapolis too. Like, those are the kind of things you find out. Like, free agency basically starts in Indianapolis.
Gotcha.
I hate to interrupt us. Saquon just re-signed, according to Schefter.
No,
just kidding. Just kidding.
Come on.
I was like, I can't believe you wouldn't text me.
I wanted to see the.
He does this shit all the time.
I wanted to see the panic in your guys' faces.
Did I panic?
You were like you went for your phone very quickly.
I went for my phone.
Well, because I did get a couple text messages, so I just wanted to see what they are.
Oh,
what
well,
did they say?
I appreciate you not checking those.
My wife.
My wife.
There's a giant, semi-giant beat writer combo in there. A couple texts.
Okay.
Can't read those though out loud.
Can't read those out loud. Talking bad about you, Bobby. Can I expand? I want to expand upon, like what in terms of like what's your sense on the kind of offense the Giants want to have and the kind of offense that the Giants want to run moving forward? Because obviously it's kind of pulling hairs with asking that question because it's with Daniel Jones's price tag, right? Are you going to be paying him close to $40 million? Well, then you should have an offense that's dependent on your quarterback. And I also feel like that question very much pertains to Saquon Barkley as well. So, I'll rephrase that same question to you. Instead of Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley.
Well, if Daniel Jones is, wants, of his demands and he sticks to them, and there's not a middle ground that they find, the likelihood that Saquon Barkley walks becomes greater.
Yeah.
Right? Because, okay, here's where we're at right now. The Giants have Daniel Jones, and there's a gap. They're not on the same page right now. They have to find a middle ground. So the franchise tag is now dedicated to him. The Giants would be more than willing to let Saquon Barkley walk if they have to. The choice is either your core, you get, because once Saquon Barkley gets to the market, then it becomes even bigger problem because then he could take offers from everybody. Now, I think Saquon in general probably has more value to the Giants than other teams. Like, I don't see that $16, $17 million offer out there for him. But somebody will offer him a good deal. And the second a guy is more likely to reach free agency, the more likely he is to leave, obviously. So I think there is the real, if you're a Saquon fan, there should be a real concern that does happen. Yeah. That he hits the market, and then once he hits the market, he ends up leaving. And the Giants, while they really like Saquon Barkley, I think Joe Shane kind of hinted at this in the season-ending press conference. Positional value matters to him. They have to take that into consideration. Resources, positional value. They're willing to from the people I talk to, if they have to, let him walk. And
I was going to ask that because at the end of the season press
conference,
the
offense will look totally different, right? Because he's not your best player.
Right.
I was going to ask that because the end of the season press conference, like they were kind of glowing about Daniel Jones. He's basically slipped up and said he's going to to be back.
He did slip up.
And then with Saquon, it became very business-like, GM type answers. Like, is there a way they're quietly like just ready to move on from it because of of course you want a guy like Saquon Barkley on your team, but because of the running back contract, his injury history, how he deals with injury, are they like almost quietly like ready for him to walk?
I think they've convinced themselves that if it does get to that point, he's a running back. This is not Dave Gettleman, right? This is a regime that kind of understands. Like, he plays running back. We could fill that position. This is a super strong running back draft, and Joe Shane loves the draft. I'm sure he's looking at it and saying, we could get a couple mid-round running backs here that can really contribute right away. So I think they're resigning themselves to the fact that it might happen. I think they have a number where they would be willing to make it happen and make him stay.
Well, the number was reported was $12.5 million, which I don't know if that's accurate or not. Like,
that
I feel like Saquon would be insane to turn that down.
It was more like 12 with ways to get it up a little more, close to 12.5, 13. I think if the Giants, I think there's a middle ground, right? The Giants are pretty intent. Okay, that's like kind of the most we're going to offer. But if they can get it up to like 13, like I think at the end of the day, that might, 13. And then if it starts at 13 and can get up to 13.5, I think that's a middle ground that we might see as we get along here. And because remember, the second we get towards that deadline, things ramp up. If the Giants, here's a big part of it. Let's say the Giants get a deal done with Daniel Jones. Now you have the franchise tag to hold over Saquon's head. All of a sudden, that $12.5 million, $12.5, $13 million looks so much better, right? Because your other reality is you're going to play on $10.1 million on a one-year deal with no security, which is your worst nightmare. So that's why it's so important. The Giants are racing against the clock. That's why it's so important for the Giants to get that deal with Daniel Jones done.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Giants should treat it like the Steelers treat a Le'Veon Bell, where it's like, obviously with Daniel Jones, they got to franchise tag him. They can't, but like you said, where it's like, we'll franchise tag you, and then we'll franchise tag you again if we need to, and we're
Clearly
still spending less money.
Clearly the best business proposition, but there are reasons that can be concerning. He's a team captain. He's a very well-respected guy in that locker room, right? He's a guy that a lot of the guys look up to, they go to, they talk to. He's publicly done everything right throughout his time there. If you don't reward him and then play hardball with him like that, it could create a disconnect and a distrust with the front office. It's like, okay, if they're not going to reward Saquon, why should I trust that they're going to reward me?
Yeah.
So it's a very fine line. And the Saquon situation is very interesting. And that's why I said before, his value to the Giants, I believe, is greater than his value to any other team.
Yeah. And we keep kind of bouncing back between Barkley Jones. But Bobby, this is something that we didn't even talk about. There's been the rumblings that Daniel Jones felt a little slighted about the Giants not picking up the 5th-year option, and good for him, right? Good for him for wanting more money and feeling slighted going out there, making a 2022 about like a prove it year. But it really kind of made me think about the times that Eli Manning towards the end of his career would give like these little slight nudges and these little slight slights. They're slights towards the organization in terms of how they're not building around him. It's not really a question, Jordan, but this is like the first time that I think we've ever felt Daniel Jones. He obviously didn't say anything, but it's the first time that we felt Daniel Jones give some sort of emotion that maybe he wasn't happy with what the front office was doing. What's your take on that? And is that impacting these contract negotiations?
I think there's maybe been some, I don't know the right word. I think maybe there's been some disappointment that over the years they just haven't been able to put the team around them. But I don't think it's, he's upset with the front office. This is a new front office.
Right.
I think it's more like, I'm upset with the situation and how it played out. Right? Everything about it. First of all, we can sit here and talk about the 5th-year option. Honestly, I don't think Daniel Jones is really that upset about it. I think he understood. He had a neck injury where he missed the final 6 games of last season. Okay? Yeah. He has a new regime come in. How is that new regime off you missing 6 games with a neck injury in any way, shape, or form in any world going to be able to pick up that 5th-year option? It was a known thing that they weren't going to pick it up. Like they just couldn't in the situation that they were. And anyone who's sitting there saying they made a mistake, that's totally revisionist history. You just couldn't in that spot pick up his 5th-year option.
And you think that he understood that?
When Joe Schoen, yes, he's very reasonable. I think he understood that. Joe Schoen took over. It was either when he was hired or when Daboll was hired. He was talking to the media. He brought up Sam Darnold's 5th-year option being a disaster for Carolina, right? So it was known from like the second he was hired, you couldn't pick up the 5th-year option.
Yeah, it's I'm like basically done with. I just need these contracts and situations to be resolved at this point.
Would you guys be up? How would you react if Daniel Jones got a contract for 40 or 40 plus million a year?
I just don't see. I know people will talk. I think the Giants have way more leverage than people realize with the franchise tag, and if you look at percentage of cap comparing to other contracts, it's. Like, he's just does not have anywhere near the body of work to get that. Where his body of work lands at, like, maximum of $36 million. And that's bigger percentages than guys like Ryan Tannehill and other guys in those similar situations.
You got to calculate inflation a little bit. So that's why I'm close. I'm like at 38. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm with you, Jordan, where I kind of mocked something up that made sense in my brain. where it was 5 years, 190 million total, but then 60% of that being guaranteed. So the 5-year 190 is a 38 AAV. The 3 years 110 million guaranteed is, so that's 60%. That's around 36.67 AAV. But still, for me, Jordan, it's not even about the AAV. And is it 40? It's how it's structured. And that's where I think hopefully, Joe Shane and, I don't know what Kevin Abrams' involvement is, whoever the numbers guy is, in the organization that's negotiating this stuff. I'm hoping that just the structure of the deal, even if it's an AAV that we're a little uncomfortable with, it will give the Giants flexibility throughout whatever guaranteed years that they have to continue to build up. And that where I think that's a very possible
quarterback's basically going to get 3 guaranteed years. It's hard. It's hard for the situation the Giants are in. Like, it doesn't do Daniel Jones any good to take a deal unless he's guaranteed the 3rd year. Right. Otherwise, he'll just take the $70 million, right, guaranteed, and hit free agency when the market's going to be through the roof in 2 years.
Right.
Yeah, well, I think they have the tag at their disposal. And, I mean, teams around the league aren't stupid. Nobody is planning on Daniel Jones hitting free agency. So Daniel Jones really is not part of anybody's free agency plan. Whereas if there was like an idea that they might let him just hit free agency, where the Jets, the Saints, those type of teams might come calling, and you hear rumors that Carr's contract could be $35 million average annual. I know that he's older, but he also has a better body of work. So I just think the Giants have more leverage than people realize. Yeah,
I think they'll ultimately be in the same range when all's said and done. It'll be below 40 if they come to a deal. But if Daniel Jones is insistent his value is worth more than $40 million, well, guess what? He's going to get that franchise tag at $32.4 million.
Yeah. Let's move off Daniel Jones, Saquon. Here's something that hasn't been talked about much, I think partly because the Giants made the playoffs. What is the confidence level in the building around Evan Neal? Because everyone wants to compare it to Andrew Thomas. To me, it's not comparable. Andrew Thomas, by the end of his rookie season, was a successful rookie season. Evan Neal, Evan Neal was the worst offensive lineman on the starting unit at the end of the year, where Thomas was probably the best by the end of the year. Is there any worry about him because his issues are more physical than mental, with balance, playing a little slow?
I think a little bit. I think there is. I mean, you can't sit there and watch the way he played and be super optimistic. Like, you have to be like, okay. Like, also, let's forget the path of Andrew Thomas's rookie year. To compare him to, like, the number of guys that stunk their rookie years and stunk their whole careers, like, the percentage is way higher than the guys who followed the career path of Andrew Thomas. Right? Andrew Thomas is in the minority, right, at this point. Like, the likelihood is if you're really struggling, you're not good, it usually doesn't correlate to being an all-pro. Like, that line of thinking doesn't make sense to me. So I agree with you on that. I think there is some concern with him. There's belief that he was, I think, injured, though, and that affected him. And especially when we're talking about balance, and that's always been the knock on him, right? The fact that he was dealing with ankle problems, I think it was ankle, right? Ankle?
No, it was the shoulder.
Evan Neal?
Yeah. Thomas is the ankle guy.
Oh, right. I'm confusing them. Right. But they to me, that what was told to me was that they said they thought he was injured, and when he came back, he played better for a little while. But like, that was contributing to it, and that's a part why the struggles existed. But you can't be. There is concern. There is. That's the bottom line. And I will say this: I had somebody before the draft. He works for another team, but he told me he thought that Neal was a guard, an interior lineman in the NFL. And you're like, what? Really? Okay. I think that's also a fallback. I think that the Giants would be smart to keep that in the back of their head. Also, okay, maybe he is better off on the interior because of the concerns that are out there about him. They kind of they showed up, right? Everything you thought was somewhat concerning with him proved to be concerning this past year. So I think that has to be in the back of their mind as like an alternative option if it doesn't go well next year.
Yeah, I think his growth is like one of the biggest tentpoles of how the offense does next year. Like if he becomes a solid, even just a solid player next year, that makes the offense I mean, he was an issue. Like, there was a big issue with him at the end of last season. Speaking of offensive line, the interior, I know that's something that gets talked about a lot. Is that a position that we could see that doesn't get a ton of tinkering this offseason? Because you have Glowinski under contract. Azudu showed somewhat promise. I don't know how serious that neck injury is. And then, you know, you expect either Gates or Feliciano to be back. Is that a position where it's like you have Bredesen, where it's like you don't have great position, but like they feel confident enough where this isn't a position we need to go and try and overhaul?
I think that's one where it depends on how they spend their money, right? If they have to use the franchise tag on Daniel Jones, that might be one that they have to sacrifice, right? Okay, we'll throw another veteran into the mix and hope to get by there. You know, add insurance at tackle, something like that. But yeah, it might be. I think that's another position, though, by the way, we're going to find out how the Giants think and believe at the Combine about center.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna see, like, do they want to go back to, you know, their guy in Feliciano, who was, you know, Daboll and Shane's guy from Buffalo, or do they think Nick Gates, okay, he's healthy now, he's good enough, we can put him at center, or do we attack center in the draft and then bring back a mediocre center in the meantime and worry about that later?
I mean, I think the logical thing is even if you were going to take a center in the first round, bringing Gates back would make sense. He's not going to command a lot, and now he has he's 4 years younger than Feliciano. When he played center, he was better than Feliciano, and it's like, okay, now he has an offseason to actually get.
Do we really know how they feel about Gates at center, though? That's the question.
That's the question. All logic.
I don't. I mean,
and
that's what I think we'll have a better idea after the Combine.
Okay.
But yeah, they're gonna have to do something. They're gonna have to do something because the offensive line.
Are you talking with him trying to break that news once it comes out?
You already asked him for it.
Huh?
You already asked him for it.
I did?
You already told him, Gates, you know, talking Giants versus the world. You got to give it to me.
This is true.
I hate badgering players about anything that has to do with business.
I would never do that either, by the way. I would never say that to somebody. It's not the way I would operate.
What do you mean?
If they want to give me something, they can. I'll never be like, yo, you got to give this to me, and I need you to give this to me, blah, blah, blah.
No, I didn't say you have to, but like, do you ask, like, what's going on with contract talks?
Not right now, because I told you, let me get through the Combine. The Combine's everything, man. Like, we'll find out at the Combine where that situation is.
Okay. Yeah, the Combine seems to just be one big smoozing event. Let's see.
I have a question.
Go for it.
Jordan, do you feel the need to apologize to Bobby about outwardly defending Andrew Thomas for all these years? Because I remember there would be debates.
Oh yeah, last year on the pod he came at us.
Oh my God, yeah. Do you feel the need to apologize?
I didn't think Andrew Thomas was going to get to all-pro level, so I will take the L on this one. I will apologize.
Wow.
You were right on Andrew Thomas. I thought it was a big jump. I thought he was a good, not great player, but he evolved this year into a high-end, top-notch, all-pro caliber left tackle. So you were right
caliber,
on that one,
all
Bobby.
pro.
Huh?
Not all pro caliber, all pro.
Well, he made second team all pro.
That's second team all pro. I quietly kind of disagreed with that, though. I thought Laramie Tunsil had a better year than him. But I'm not gonna complain about that.
Good for you, Jordan.
I'll take you out now.
You're a good man. You own up to it.
I mean, he was great. There's no way around it. He had an awesome year.
Yeah. See,
I thought he capped out on like a little bit lower. Like I thought his ceiling was like, okay, he could be like a Pro Bowl type guy, not at the next level.
Bobby was right.
Always am.
Hey, you got to be right once in a while, Bobby. So
name one thing I've ever been wrong. Never lost.
Ever.
Never been wrong in your life.
Ever.
I've been wrong on very little with the Giants. I'm trying to Justin. What's like an L I've taken over the last year?
Quincy Roche.
I still think I was right on that. O'Shane Zimenez was a 0 for this team.
Of course, you're going to be.
Everyone always brings up the training camp cuts. Here's the thing. Everyone always brings up the training camp cuts.
Squad.
Ryan Connolly.
He's on the practice squad for like 2 years.
Oh God, here we go.
But here's the thing: is everyone brings up, because those are like the things people are like. Well, this guy didn't turn out to anything, like Ryan Connolly, and I view those as my biggest W's. Like O'Shane Ximines gave them nothing this year. He was a useless player. Quincy Roche would have affected the game more than him.
I actually like Quincy Roche. I'm arguing against him. I like Quincy Roche. So, I mean, I actually with you on that.
Like Ryan Connolly, people like, see, Ryan Connolly, you got so mad about Ryan Connolly. I was like, you know what I was more mad about? Was that Devontae Downs was starting games at linebacker for us. The fact that if we didn't have Tate Crowder work out as a Mr. Irrelevant, we would have Devontae Downs starting at linebacker all year long. So it's like, I was right about, it's just, if a guy doesn't impact the game and is a great player, doesn't mean I'm not going to defend them against the other bad. They're just less bad than.
So basically, Bobby's not going to take an L for anything. I got.
No, I have a feeling.
Justin, that's how we're working here.
I wanted to trade Saquon for like a 5th round pick last year. I'll take an L on that.
I have a feeling that we're gonna take an L on Odell being back. I'm getting feelings. I'm getting feelings that he's coming back.
I wouldn't get too excited about that yet.
Well, I'm not excited. I'm with Bobby. I don't want it to happen. But
you know what I mean. I wouldn't get too high on that one yet. It's all about money.
We're gonna find out in Indianapolis. Like we're gonna find out everything that
just hopefully he can make it on the flight to sign this contract.
Everything that the Giants are going to be about the next couple months, we're going to find out in Indianapolis this week, and I'm so excited to find out from Jordan Raanan.
Let's see. Is there any other L? So the Saquon thing I was wrong about. I guess Daniel Jones, I put him at being back on the roster at 25%. That's an L. The thing is, I don't even know football. I just spend my entire life dedicated to the New York Giants, where it's like I kind of know this team in and out. It's like if you asked me to talk about the Steelers, I would have a ton of L's. It's just the Giants. I put way too much time and effort into this. Yeah, do we have anything else, Justin, before we go?
So you're going to nitpick my 1L there? Is that what you guys are doing? That's what just happened here?
Yeah.
I mean, you went after Bobby, though. That's the thing. You two were going at it.
It was on this pod last year.
I made a joke about how it's something like he was going to put Andrew Thomas, I believe, in the Hall of Fame or something.
Yeah, you do like busting his balls, though.
Is there any other Jordan L we could think of?
Oh, my God.
Not crediting Danny King. That was an L.
We already went over that. You're so fraudulent with that, Bobby. I can't even sit here and have this conversation.
You would have won the Tony Award if you credited Danny. Here, all right, let's finish off talking Tony Award. I know people are like over it at this now, and I'm kind of over it too. So the rules. Originally, we thought that the Good Guy Award you couldn't win for 2 years after you won it. So supposedly not. So I guess Duggan is back in the running. We were thinking about changing the voting system. Part of me wants to. It's become a real award now to where I almost want to scrap it. Like, what are your thoughts on it?
That doesn't make any sense. So it's like a real award. You don't want to scrap it?
I mean, originally it was a joke that we were making fun of the Good Guy Award. Basically.
Well, I mean, your fans hate all the B-Reders anyway, so I think the joke still lives.
Wow.
So
here's the thing, though, is Duggan. I mean, Duggan's the fan favorite, right? So I think
you really should make it least favorite, and that's when
it's too mean.
Oh, like Bobby cares?
Well, and it became like the award is not sure if you're a good person, but it's best Giants reporter. And some of the votes on there were like, this person is not a good reporter. They're just a nice person, you know. Some of the I won't say which place because they'll get away, but someone who got like between 4th and 6th place, I was like, what's going on here? This person doesn't do anything. Like he just, so we'll see. And myself, and Justin and Danny forgot to vote this year. Like
was that important? Was that important to you?
I would have voted for Zach.
Is it like a goodbye present?
Yeah, exactly.
And we were thinking about making Danny King a beat reporter, and like giving the award to him next year. Which he's doing an intern, like he's on his way there. He's working in sports media now.
Just feed him the information we talk about again, and then he could qualify him as a beat writer.
See, here's where that went wrong. Is I I texted you to give you that information, and you did. I already know about that. So I was like, fine, I'll give the information to Danny King and let him break it.
Miscommunication.
He's working for TMZ now, by the way.
Yes, out in LA.
Really?
Yeah, he's interning, but he's not, which is
I like
kind of
it.
weird because I'm like, I don't want Danny King to become like a paparazzi guy. It's like I love Danny King. I don't want to hate him if he's like running in people's faces. But we'll see what happens. But we're working on turning him into a beat reporter one day, even if he doesn't want to do that.
Keep giving him info.
What's coming up on your podcast that people can look out for?
I don't know. Actually, this week is a TBD. We're gonna do. I'll take a lot of questions this week. Probably like after the combine is probably like I'll do like a massive like Giants After Dark type mailbag where I'll answer everyone's questions and get out all the information that I basically not going to fit into stories. So something along those lines. So we'll see. I don't know if there's a lot of things that go into, like, I'm not like you guys. I'm not going to bring all this equipment to Indianapolis.
True.
To bang out a podcast, like do it by as a one-man solo crew. It's not how I operate.
That's actually
I can't actually. I can't do it. There's reasons I can't, but
there's speaking of when you had us on, you guys released that podcast mid FanFest, which we were like, oh, now one's like, it's hard to get people's attention on it on a Friday night. It's like next time if you do have us on, it's got to be like come out on a Tuesday. Like that's.
I think that was intentional.
No, I mean it's me being like the hard part is so. The schedule in general, I mean that's a different part of the year, so that was different. But in general, like if I'm flying home on Monday and I'm coming home and your off day is Tuesday, but then I have some things with the family. Like the next thing you know, you're stuck in the back of the week. I would love the idea should be to get out a podcast early in the week. That's when it's best. I agree, but it's not always feasible.
We'll be back down there with the van and training camp. Excited for that. So we'll figure it all out then.
Yeah,
Jordan,
let's make sure it's taped on a Monday. That's the ideal time.
Okay. Let's do it. All right, Jordan, thanks again for jumping on. We'll talk soon. Appreciate you.
All right, fellas.
All right, thanks, Jordan, for coming on. Justin, I was thinking we were talking about my L's. I had like a few L's I forgot to bring up. I thought Kenny Golladay would be a solid wide receiver for the Giants this year.
Yeah.
Is like Tony hype an L, or is it be like did injuries stop it?
No, I don't blame anybody for getting really excited about him.
Yeah, so I won't count Tony, but Golladay was definitely like on our PPP, I thought Golladay would not be a cut this year offseason because I was going off of what he did in 2021, which was a solid wide receiver, and I thought he'd be a good player for the Giants in this new scheme. I was wrong, so that's a huge L that Jordan Raanan should have brought up. And that's something we argued about when we were on his podcast. So
that is true. Yeah, he was the one that was saying he's just slow, he's lethargic. But I mean, even you could be the average Joe in training camp, and you could say Kenny Golladay looks slow, he looks lethargic, blah, blah, blah. Even watching Kenny Golladay in training camp and just knowing the price tag and knowing the wide receiver, like he is supposed to be a wide receiver one, you can't tell me that somebody would have predicted that he would have less than 10 catches on the year.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he was like in camp, they were targeting downfield. He had some contested catches. It just went so bad.
Even like Galladay's worst haters, and maybe even Tony's like biggest doubters too. It's crazy how much what went wrong for the Giants this year on so many fronts, where even the biggest naysayers couldn't predict how like non-productive those two players would be.
Yeah, it's insane.
Won a playoff game.
Yeah, I know. It's so funny. Like when people talk about preseason expectations and we're like, this offense can be better than people thought. A lot of that predicated on the wide receiver room having talent of Golladay, Tony,
and staying healthy,
Shep, Wandale, and by
none of them.
By week three of those guys were totally out of the picture, and Wandale wasn't even on the playing at that point. He comes back, gets injured fairly quick. So funny. It's like literally 2 third stringers and a guy not on the roster.
Yep.
Were the starting receivers, and we're like, not the worst group ever. So all right, we'll be back on Friday. Some I'm not exactly sure what we'll get to. The combine will just get rolling at that point, so maybe we'll do something special for you guys. But anyways, we'll see you then.
Oh, also, wait.
Combine video.
I should have brought this up at the top. Go check out the JM Entertainment channel and the JM Football channel because we have released the John Boy Media Scouting Combine. There's some videos that have been released. Definitely the 40-yard dash is out on the JM Entertainment channel. So that's like my big production that I do every single year. So if you can go check it out, if you can give it a like, and if you can leave it a nice little comment, and I think it's entertaining too. The video is like around 10 minutes, so it's not even that long of a watch. And I think it's funny, and you get to see all of us run 40-yard dashes very slow.
Appreciate you guys. I'm excited. I'm excited for that. So we'll see you Friday. Enjoy the combine. Until then, let's go Big Blue.